Mr. Ruppert. And I wanted to introduce him. And he's got a huge history of putting forward very alternative, very critical information. He's been a leader in the peak oil movement since 2001. He's the subject of the award-winning 2009 documentary Collapse. Recently featured on the History Channel special Prophets of Doom, and was featured in the recent, of course, ZEITGEIST Moving Forward documentary. Let's see. And in 2 months ago, he had Peter Joseph, the film director of ZEITGEIST Moving Forward, the ZEITGEIST films. He had him on his radio show called The Lifeboat Hour, which is really good. I check in on that every now and then. And he's also, Mike Ruppert's also the founder of a website called CollapseNet, which is an online community designed to help the public prepare for societal collapse. And when you kind of see the information, you really can't deny the facts. The information he presents is a little bit heavy, but I think you'll find when you talk to him, if you get a chance, he's a really positive guy. Just bring him on right now, and you guys, I hope the information finds you well. Mike, over to you.
I feel like I'm at a Senate hearing. Today is a really, really good day to be among friends. Shortly after 1 p.m. this afternoon, CollapseNet posted an emergency action alert for our members in 60 countries. That emergency action alert was warning of imminent catastrophic meltdowns at Fukushima, at the nuclear reactor in Fukushima, Japan. Having done some research along a lot of these lines along the way, I did a little research on the trade wind patterns, and there is a straight line with the trade winds from Japan to the entire Pacific coast of North America, so that if there is a catastrophic meltdown at the Fukushima reactor, the trade winds will bear that radioactive fallout to our shores. We put that up at around 1 o'clock this afternoon. At around 3 o'clock this afternoon, and in that alert that we put up at CollapseNet, I almost insisted, I was screaming at everybody, by any means possible, purchase potassium iodide, a non-prescription drug that you can get online very easily. Don't call a pharmacy, they won't have it. Some large health supply stores will. Around the world, it is recognized as a drug because the thyroid gland loves iodine. That will be absorbed by the thyroid gland so that the potassium, the radioactive iodide isotopes that are leaked from the reactor cannot be absorbed. It's a standard issue in the military. If you dose before exposure, you stand very little risk of being contaminated by radioactive iodine, and it's something we have time to do. It would take the shortest time 3 days for those winds to get here. Just about 2 hours ago, CNN announced that it had from sources in Japan that they had completely lost control of the cooling process at Fukushima reactor number 1, and that a catastrophic meltdown was underway. Just about 30 minutes ago, CBS News announced that Japanese authorities have lost control of the cooling process at Fukushima number 2. The meltdown processes are out of control at present. They are in last-ditch measures throwing seawater, which is truly beyond a Hail Mary because it's full of corrosive salts, which will combine with the radioactive release if it's released. And so it looks like 2 reactors. Picture a Chernobyl and a 3-mile island sitting next to each other. If they have a catastrophic failure, the trade winds, there is nothing across the Pacific Ocean that can prevent that fallout from reaching North America. So as absorbing this and doing what we do at CollapseNet. We designed CollapseNet for this reason, among many others. Collapse Network, now in 60 countries, provides a daily briefing on our world news desk that has kept all of our readers very far ahead of the curve for a long time. But we are also now in a place we have designed ourselves to help us prepare and to help anybody else get ready to deal with whatever challenges lie ahead. If we take a step back from this catastrophic, and let me tell you something, today we are all Japanese. Today, we are all Tunisian, we are all Egyptian, we are all Libyan, we are all Irish, we are all Greek, we are all Mauritanian, because we are living now in a world where we see absolutely and clearly that what happens to one of us happens to all of us. If we go back a little ways, I'll pick a date. Let's pick Deepwater Horizon. The Gulf of Mexico is dead. Around the world, economic, financial meltdowns are thoroughly underway, as we see from the budget cutbacks throughout Europe, from the fact that people cannot afford to eat in many countries in the world, and food riots are breaking out everywhere, not just in the Arab world. About a week and a half ago, 40,000 people turned out in the streets of Delhi, India, because they could not afford to eat. And if you fail to see the connection between that and Wisconsin, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, New Jersey, New York, California, and Michigan, you really need to get your eyes checked. If we look at the string of events, if we step out of the matrix of the hypnosis and the mesmeration of mainstream media, which will have you deal with only one event sequentially, to forget about the ones that have come before, you will miss the picture that the collapse of human industrial civilization is underway at full speed now. You got it. So as I come here today, I mean, 2 days ago I gave a speech at the University of Delaware, Thursday. That was two days ago, wasn't it, Max? I don't know, what day is it? And as I gave that speech, even then, I was kind of overwhelmed with the catastrophic state of events, but then the earthquake hit Japan. To talk briefly, mention a couple more things about Japan. I'll tell you the facts right now, and those of you who know me, you know that I really get this shit right. You know, I made a map, and my life's mission has been to teach other people how to read the map for themselves. And the result of that map is all the genius and all the talent in our family at CollapseNet. But you can learn to read that too. Before the earthquake hit, for more than a year on the World News Desk at CollapseNet, where it is one of the most sacred things that I do in my life. It is the single most fundamental sacred obligation that I have, is to every day read between 60 and 80 news stories that are collected for me by Jenna Orkin and a guy named Rice Farmer, who is a former Army intelligence guy. These are people who I taught how to research, and it is my sacred obligation to read all of those stories every day and comment on them. That's how I do this. It's not easy. But for the past year, we have been commenting diligently and pointing out how Japan was a failing state, with debt at 200% of GDP, facing the same and worse cutbacks than we have seen in Greece, in Britain, in Ireland, in France, that we're seeing here in the United States. Japan was already on the brink of massive layoffs, cutbacks, and services. Japan does not have the resources. There will be no rebuilding. Japan's economic back has been broken. Its physical back has been broken. And And we can only feel empathy for the people of that amazingly proud and honorable nation. But ask not for whom the bell tolls, as John Donne said. On top of all those things, today, some of the other news that's going around, we've already forgotten about Libya, haven't we? Today, the Arab League unanimously called for the imposition of a no-fly zone because Muammar Gaddafi has turned the tables in the civil war and is massacring his countrymen all the way now from Tripoli on the way to Benghazi. And he doesn't care, and the world can do nothing to stop him. NATO cannot, as I have been writing, and you know my background, NATO will not be able to muster an effective no-fly zone, so the massacres in Libya will continue. A lot of other things are going on today. But the point is that this is collapse, and as we go through the collapse of a complex civilization, psychologically and emotionally, what I need for you to be prepared for is that from here on out, the tempo and the severity of each succeeding catastrophe is going to increase. So now it's time to really get serious. From CollapseNet, and this is why speaking at a Zeitgeist event is so important for me. Since the movie has come out, since the Prophets of Doom, it's a really good special on the History Channel, costs about $3 million, and it's running intermittently. Since everything has been playing out the way that I and so many others have been predicting, I've been privileged to travel all over this country. But not only have I traveled geographically, I have traveled across ideology and philosophy. I have traveled across viewpoints ranging from my good friend Tracker Tom Brown and his Wilderness Survival School and the amazing relationships and the awarenesses that they teach us to have with our Mother Earth. I have worked extensively with Transition US, which has 77, I don't know, maybe it might have 90 now, initiatives around the country to relocalize food production and form local communities. As guests on my radio show, I've had Bob Waldrop, a wonderful guy who's an obvious out Catholic missionary, but all he cares about is saving people's lives. He runs the Running on Empty discussion groups at Yahoo. I've had Jim Rawls of survivalblog.com, a former captain in U.S. Army intelligence, also with 7,000 to 10,000, all with archived amazing amounts of information, all with a lot of research. I've had anybody on, who I saw was out there who had a clear understanding of a couple of things. The first and foremost being that human industrial civilization is a dead man walking. The second being that they understand that the economic paradigm that the human species finds itself living in now, based upon fractional reserve banking, fiat currency, and compound interest, is a corrupt and crooked pyramid scheme of infinite growth, whose purpose, in actuality, not in statement, whose mission, indeed, not in word, is to kill all of us so that it can make a profit. We have all worshipped at the Church of Infinite Growth. Some of us still do. There's no way to completely disengage. We have to, there's a biblical saying that says, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's and render unto God the things that are God's. No one of us can completely disengage, and that's allowed for. But disengaging is absolutely indeed what we need to do. And so as I've done this, I have made it a point, because I know that I do not have all the answers. My asset, if you will, what I bring to the table of this change of human consciousness is the ability to read a map and tell you what's coming next. I got a 30-year record of that. It's pretty good. So I offer that to the table along with our skills at research and analysis. Collapse Network, you will also find an absolutely free Lighthouse directory of more than 1,020, 1,050 now, hand-picked entries in this totally free directory where anything that you might think you might be looking for you could find, including potassium iodide. We offer the best breaking news analysis in the world. And I know that because I'm told that at least one head of state comes to read the World News Desk every day. We offer 30 regional blogs so that people, and we have one very active now in Japan. Two of our most beloved members at CollapseNet, Dale Sinner and Rice Farmer, live in Japan. They're giving us regular updates. We also offer you a map. It is an interactive map where once you become a CollapseNet member and log in, listing some of your basic skills, not giving your name and your address, you can push a button and you will see a map of your neighborhood, and every CollapseNet member who is close to you will instantly pop up and you can reach out to them. I was having a conversation with Tom Brown. Anybody know who Tom Brown is? Tracker Tom Brown? Tom Brown is probably the most legendary and famous wilderness survival expert. He's a tracker. He is tracked for the FBI, CIA, everybody is tracked. He trained SEAL Team 6. He has many, many different kinds of courses. And I was talking to Tom not too long ago. I just did his course with my assistant Max up there. I did his standard course up there. I learned how to make fire. I learned how to read track. I learned how to skin an animal. I learned how to build a debris hut so that any place, anywhere I am at any time, I won't freeze to death. I learned how to find water. I learned how to find edible plants. And most importantly, I have learned how to relate to Mother Earth and listen to her and the life that's on it. But I'm talking to Tom, and I said to Tom, you know, Tom, this is, you know, I was loving it. But I looked at him and I said, there's a reason why Native Americans lived in tribes. Yeah, there is. And I said, okay, so that means we need Transition US, because that's community building, and there are many other ways, but you will not make it unless you make friends close to where you live now. We need tribe. We need community. So we need that strength. One of the things that Zeitgeist brings that is priceless, and I remember when the first time that I met Peter Joseph, he came to my house. It was to film the segment for the latest movie, and I had read all the literature that had been sent, and I was blown away by the grasp, by the command that Jacques Fresco and Peter Joseph had on the corruption and the danger of the human economic paradigm. It's like, they get it almost as good as I do. That's when I'm egotistical. The other is, God, these guys really get it. And that is priceless. And we saw that message delivered real clearly in moving forward. It has been a signature line of mine for, I don't know, 7, 8 years now. Until you change the way money works, you change nothing. And we're seeing the fruits of that now. The big $64,000 question is, how do we change the way money works? We'll come to that, I hope. But all of these consciousnesses, conscious nine? Oh, never mind. All of these different consciousnesses coming from different places are like fingers of a hand, parts of a body that are absolutely indispensable to the future of our species. And what Zeitgeist brings that has to be carried over no matter what happens is its awareness that we must live in a resource-based economy free of the infinite growth economic paradigm. Nothing else can be achieved until that freedom is achieved. Nothing. I'm just thinking, I'm fine. You guys are screwed, but I'm fine. Be sure to put a sense of humor in your toolkit. By the way, you all do know what the last recorded words of George Armstrong Custer were? Cross my heart. We've got them now. So you got to keep the sense of humor. So here we are at like this really critical moment in time when the lights are going to start going on, as they have been going on around the world increasingly, about the urgency of the crisis that we now face. And more than ever, it is critical to build bridges between those of us who truly in our hearts understand that human industrial civilization is dead. It is dead now. Now, when Peter Joseph first came over to my house, he sat down, and I got to tell you, Peter's one of the most honorable guys I've ever met in person. I've never met Jacques, but I've read enough of Jacques to believe that he is too. But I looked at him and I said, man, I've looked at all these, these pretty pictures about all these cities, and I said, that is not what's coming next. That's not going to be here tomorrow. Economically, it is impossible. The fundamental difference now, among others, between this event and the Great Depression, this collapse, is that with this collapse, we don't have what they had in the 1930s, which was unlimited resources. The United States passed peak oil in 1970. It's confirmed that the world passed peak oil in 2006. Now oil production around the world is stretched so thin that even the hint of a disruption in Libyan supply, and about half of its 1.5 million barrels a day is already offline, but now Muammar Gaddafi is blowing up his own refineries. And that same unrest is prevalent throughout the region, and the Saudi Arabia will fall. I've been predicting that, but Saudi Arabia has passed their peak of production a long time ago. They are lying through their teeth, and yet, because of growth, largely driven by that in India and China, it is a mathematical certainty that this year, in 2011, global oil demand will exceed the highest ever global oil demand, which occurred in 2007. But the world passed peak in 2006 at about 86 million barrels per day. Since we passed peak 5 years ago, our maximum production capacity is probably now somewhere around, 82 million barrels. And yet we're going to have demand for 87 million barrels this year. And there is nobody else anywhere can turn on a tap and make up for what's being taken out of supply. Not quite clear what Japan is going to do with oil demand. Japan is the third largest oil consuming nation in the world at about 5.5 million barrels per day. For the time being, because Japan's economy is absolutely stuck, Japanese demand for oil will fall, but there will be major disruptions in oil supply because now all over Japan, people have no electricity, they have no food, they have no running water. And diesel generators will be in demand, and refineries need to be recalibrated to produce diesel. You will see really screwy behavior in the oil markets. As to what the world economy is going to do next week as a result of this, God only knows. They're all lying through their teeth anyway. They all make up their numbers. They all print more money and cook books. They lie. They tell you everything is under control while they stick it in every part of your body they can find. But you can bet that there are going to be some monstrous economic fallouts from this next week. Japan's toast. And if both of these reactors melt down, and let me clarify this about a catastrophic core meltdown of both reactors. Just because there is a catastrophic meltdown does not mean that the containment building will fail. That's the event that you have to worry about. Unfortunately, at Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island, the containment buildings failed. And that's the event that you need to look out for when and if it happens. I'm very convinced that we're going to see one, and if not 2, total core meltdowns. Then everything gets real simple, real quick, doesn't it? Then your temporal window changes. You have less to think about, less to debate. You need to focus on how to take care of yourself. Now, on CollapseNet, last July, I issued an emergency action alert to our members on food. Warning that massive food price spikes were coming. Are they not here? Yeah. That massive food shortages were coming. Are they not here? And I urged everybody to stock up on 3 months' worth of food and to immediately, and this still applies, start growing something to eat if you have a patch of dirt. I've also been advising our members for many months that potassium iodide was very handy. Then my concerns were a little bit more that we might have a nuclear confrontation, nuclear war. Iran is now the safest country in the world. Iran's a major oil producer. Any attack on Iran, if Iranian production comes offline, you'll see $200 oil overnight, which will result in the complete shutdown of the global economy. If there is civil unrest in Saudi Arabia, which it will happen eventually, you will see $200 oil overnight, and the shutdown will be 10 times harder than we saw in 2008. Can't print any more fake money. So now's the time to get your acts, our acts, together. But I say this now knowing that I'm speaking to, all of you wonderful people here and around the world for Zeitgeist. I'm also speaking to Transition US. I'm speaking to everybody out there who gets it. We need each other now more than ever. And it all comes together and moves out from CollapseNet. That's been what I wanted to do. I'm not the total answer man, but I can point everybody to what they need. So, it's great to have dreams, it's great to have visions about what might be, or what might have been. I'm not optimistic that we will in our lifetime see human civilization, its politics, its economics, voluntarily choose to implement the strategies and the works that Jacques and Peter have put so much, and everybody at Zeitgeist. You have the idea. For me personally, I'd love to see a little more spirit in the work, the sacred. I have adopted Native American spirituality, but clearly what I understand from everything that I've been through, unless we share something in common that is sacred, spiritual, above ourselves, we won't have the glue to hold together. There are lots of wisdoms which need to be brought together, but what I want to do today is to strengthen the wisdom that Zeitgeist and Venus Project have in their understanding of the most critical issues that confront us and the deep, dedicated work that you all have done to show us possible, workable solutions. What the finished product is going to look like, nobody knows. But we are all part of a massive, massive shift in human consciousness that's taking place. I and many, many others have called for a long time for an evolution. Mankind is being faced with the challenge now, either evolve or perish, grow up or die. Change the way you think. The universe won't shed a tear. Life will go on fine without us. But we have a choice. And I'll shut up with this and then maybe take some questions. I'll shut up with this and say that there are three really important quotes, and one, oh, no, there, hold on. I mean, what was the point of trying to write a speech? Because things were happening so fast, you know, so you gotta dance. There's one other thing I want to share, one little observation that I want to share before we get to this. If you look around, not only will you see a disintegration or a degeneracy of human morals, you'll see things getting really, really strange. And we need to be prepared for all of this, because few of us are even prepared for the insanity that's right upon our doorstep right now. Civil unrest will be global before this year is out. Certainly in the United States, as the blitzkrieg on unions and collective bargaining proceeds, you're going to see 4 or 5 states declare bankruptcy. Once a bill passes Congress allowing them to do that, Illinois, New Jersey, California, Michigan, New York, Ohio, all of them. And once a state declares bankruptcy, all the pensions can disappear anyway. They declare themselves insolvent, and there is no legal recourse for that. Pension funds, benefits, pension funds have been looted anyway. They're already gone. They're just doing this to cover up the crime, that all the pensions are unfunded, all the money's been stolen and spent elsewhere. But as the desperation continues, I heard 2 things recently which absolutely knocked me on my ass. I mean, just, one was, there's a new German interior minister appointed by Chancellor Angela Merkel. I don't remember his name, but it was a good story. It came out of Der Spiegel, I think. And the headline for the story, the guy gave the speech and he said, "There is no place in Germany for Muslims." Don't laugh. I'm German. My family comes from a town called Ruppertsburg, west of Heidelberg. My great-grandfather came over in the late 1800s, opened a restaurant in Washington, D.C. across from the White House, and my father dropped bombs on Germany in World War II. And the message is not that we have to fear Germany. The message is that that beast in man's heart has been reawakened, and what we need to fear is ourselves. It gets worse. Let me get to the worst part before you clap. Oh, you're all sick. Let's clap at the sick stuff, okay. I got this from a global security newswire. The headline reads, "Tokyo leader calls for Japanese nuclear deterrent." And in it, I'm going to give you his name, Tokyo Governor Shintaro Ishihara told the British newspaper that Japan needed to build nuclear weapons to deter the threat from China. Can anybody laugh at that? This statement was made 2 days before the earthquake. 2 days before the earthquake. So, let's go back to those quotes. I'm going to have to paraphrase the second one. There's a guy named Colin Campbell, who for me is the godfather of the peak oil movement. He's the guy who opened his heart, his mind, his email, his telephone lines to me, and introduced me to everybody else in the peak oil movement, including my dear friend, the late Matt Simmons, and started me on my global odyssey through 8 countries and more than 100 stories from the wilderness, my old news site. But right after I met Colin Campbell, he said very clearly, he lives in Ballyhoo, Ireland. He said, the species Homo sapiens might not go extinct, but the subspecies of petroleum man most certainly will. I'll have to paraphrase the second quote because I don't have it with me, but it was from Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who said something like, the earth is forever changing, tearing things down, breaking them up, reforming them so that the earth may be forever new. A living planet that is capable of changing itself, a living planet that is capable of sending a message so clear as the one we see in Japan. And the last quote that I'll give you is from my largest speech ever. It was at the University of Washington, Seattle, in 2005. We had 2,500 people show up for that. It's all over YouTube somewhere. You can get the whole thing. But I closed that lecture with 3 words. And they're the same 3 words that I will use to close today. After I tell you all, don't give up. Hold true to your vision. Adapt to changing circumstances. Prepare yourself for struggle, but do not let go of the vision. And those 3 words are prepare, prepare, prepare. Thank you. I don't know how much time we got, but I'll be happy to take questions for a while until somebody gets out the hook and wants to pull me off the stage. Anybody? There's a microphone down here in front.
To the microphone. Testing, testing.
In your personal opinion, what do you think will happen when the social/economic collapse comes to the United States?
First thing that I see, and I've been seeing it clearly and predicting it since in detail since last October, November, massive civil unrest. What I see now is that the states that need to file bankruptcy most immediately are Illinois, Chicago, Michigan, California, and probably New York. Okay? If one look, and believe me, we're a nation of very spoiled people. We believe in entitlements.
Right.
In nature, there are no entitlements. And on the other hand, you have idiots like Michael Moore, and I will say that, going to Wisconsin, telling people there's this huge pot of gold, there's all this money that's going to save everybody. But money is only a symbol for energy. Money is meaningless anymore. There's no way to bring back that life. It's gone. So if you look back at this, and Wisconsin, it's got nice cheese. The people are really pretty and they're really polite. These were the politest angry people I have ever, I don't understand this.
It's the Midwest.
Yeah, but anyway. But I can guarantee you that they ain't that polite in New Jersey, okay? And because I am old, I just turned 60, I'm now viewed as an elder in several tribes. You will show me respect, please. Well, listen, because I'm old enough, I lived through it. The biggest riots of the 1960s in the Civil Rights Movement and the Vietnam era, where tens of thousands of people died, were in Newark, New Jersey, Detroit, Michigan, Chicago, Illinois, Watts, California, Oakland, California. Do you get the overlay here? So you expect massive civil unrest. And understand now that police departments are being cut back all over the country. I got a good friend who runs the SWAT team for Camden Police. They just took the World SWAT Championship. They beat Delta Force and GSG-9. You know, New Jersey's a tough place. But half of his police department has been laid off. They're laying off cops everywhere. They're releasing convicted felons from prison because they can't afford to feed them. So you translate the civil unrest that's coming to anarchy. There are not enough troops to impose martial law. They're in Afghanistan, they're in Iraq, they're all over the world. They're spread too thin, now they're going to Japan. So civil unrest is the first thing you're prepared for, that and food supply. And then you got to kind of keep your finger to the wind to see which way the wind blows.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I like you pointed out the necessity of spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read, I call him a public speaker, his name is Jiddu Krishnamurti. Have you ever heard of that name?
I know Krishnamurti, sure.
Yeah. For me, I feel that no one has actually went into him because he's a proponent of actually reevaluating oneself, basically. He's the guy who wants to basically be objective with yourself.
What I say to that is very, first of all, this is not the time to enroll in any course to try to get spirituality.
Oh yeah, I know.
What the message of all spirituality is to learn how to listen to your heart.
Yeah.
And where your heart leads you. Just open your heart to Spirit. I open my heart to Mother Earth, and I'm led. Whatever you choose to ask, just offer your heart unreservedly, and you'll be taken where you're supposed to go. Russell.
I remember watching a broadcast you gave last December, I think, talking about how you predicted, you and two other people, I think, I forgot their names, predicted complete economic collapse or of some sort, I think, like within a couple of weeks. Like, do you still stand by that prediction?
Well,
like if
first of all, it helps when I'm quoted accurately. Okay?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can't defend against things I didn't say.
Right.
I have said that people like Chris Martinson, Nicole Foss, who I didn't mention, great, brilliant writers and thinkers, all people, Carolyn Baker, who you can find on CollapseNet. We all see that it's imminent, that it's coming right now. Pay attention. We can't give you the setting on the clock. This is the end, though. Human industrial civilization is going off a cliff right now, and if you can't see it, I don't know what more I can do to persuade you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey Mike, how have you been?
Okay.
I wanted to ask you a little bit. I'm a member of CollapseNet too, by the way.
Yay.
But
CollapseNet.com.
but I know you mentioned something about Japan, and there's going to be like a lot of economic fallout next week. What would you say some of the things are going to be happening here?
Listen, the global economic machine right now is such a patchwork of lies, chewing gum, distortions that it's impossible to say at this point. I just look at this and I just go, nobody. All I know is they're going to try to spin it one way or another. Of course, all the Japanese markets will be closed. This is force majeure, okay? Probably trading in all Japanese government securities will be suspended. But there will be follow-ons because those Japanese securities and all the Japanese business and financial activity is part of the global derivatives market, where they have to make interest payments and service the debt, and they do futures contracts and puts and calls and all this crap that they do. I don't know how that's going to break up. So all I know is this is devastating, and sometimes it's kind of like. I'm an ex-cop. I remember once seeing a body that had been shot like 9 times. He was dead. Yeah. And I'm a young cop. I'm standing next to the homicide detective, and I go, God, I wonder which one killed him. He goes, dude, he's been shot 9 times. Don't worry about which one killed him. He's dead. That's what you need to know about what's going on right now.
All right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hi, Michael. My name is Enrique. I've been following you for like the last month, ever since I watched Collapse on Netflix one night. And I'm doing my best to prepare. My family has about 10 acres in Paris. And I'm just trying to, right now I'm taking courses at Agroecology, learning how to farm. And my question to you is this: if
Paris, France?
No, Paris, California.
Oh.
Totally different Paris.
I was gonna say, dude, if your parents have 10 acres in Paris, you're not human anymore. You can go live with the gods. You're fine. Right.
Well, that's one of my problems is as I'm thinking about what will happen, what kind of things I'm gonna have to face. Water, I feel like, is gonna be a big issue. California, water supply, it's probably gonna fall apart. If I put in all this effort to make this sustainable living situation with my family who lives out there, is it even worth it if the water supply might just run out in California? Should I pack up my bags and move to Montana?
Well, first of all, you need to do some serious thinking about what your priorities are and what your options are. All right, I am moving out of Los Angeles. This is my home. I graduated from Venice High School. I went to UCLA. And we will be relocated to Sonoma County, California by April 1st. I'm getting out of town. But I have to keep CollapseNet alive, and thank God, thank Spirit, that, I'm able to put us on 2 acres with fresh water and a well. We can do some permaculture. I can take my dog and raise some chickens. So we'll leave for a while and I can keep CollapseNet running. There's no one size fits all. It's all, there's too many variables. How much money do you have? You're married, how old are your kids? Water is critical, and Tom Brown is actually excellent with that, but so is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You do have to make sure that the basic things are covered first. Shelter is first. Humans will die of exposure before they'll die of thirst. Then water, then food, etc. Then you build up from there. But there is no guarantee pretty much anywhere unless you're living on a good fresh water source. So if you can, that's good, but I wouldn't rule out everything else. You really have to put some think work into what you do. The most important thing, and it's so clear, and through all these places that I've traveled, I've been to Massachusetts, Martha's Vineyard, I've been all over Vermont, Minnesota, Oregon, Washington, California, as I'm watching everybody kind of stumbling their way towards how are we going to deal with this, okay? And the one thing that is uniform across the board is wherever you go, if you don't have a community, you probably won't make it. If it's just you and your family, and you forget it. So you need to find a place also where you're accepted, where you are part of a tribe, a clan, something that's going to take care of you. I've done without almost everything in my life. I've lost everything many times. The one thing I have never been able to do without my whole life is my friends. That's your most important asset.
Thanks for that. I live in Culver City. I know you're going to be leaving soon, but if you need any volunteer work or anything like that, I am available.
See Max.
Okay. Thank you.
We can use you.
All right.
Good evening, Michael. Thank you for coming here for all of us. Basically, I'd just like you to explain, please, if you could, what FEMA's doing, what's going to happen when we hit code red, and the continuity of government. Basically, I know everyone's run all over the place, and local and state governments are falling by the day, but I mean, what have they got set up?
You're worried about the wrong thing.
Is that right?
You're worried about absolutely the wrong thing. But I'm glad you asked, because maybe it's good that we address this point now. I've been clear on this for 8-10 years, and one of my guests, Jim Rawls, former Army captain and Army intelligence, on the exact same page. Disinformation artists like Alex Jones, and I will name him publicly, who I have caught fabricating stories, who I have caught selling some of the most rancid bullshit ever, want you to be afraid of concentration camps and continuity of government, so that you will not deal with the things you need to deal with. There are not going to be any concentration camps for 300 million Americans. It costs money to feed 300 million people. It costs money to heat them. It costs money to build the camps. It costs money to feed the guards. Now, I may warrant a concentration camp. Me and my good friend Cynthia McKinney. And me and Ron Paul, too. My two favorite members of Congress ever. Yeah. Ron Paul and Cynthia McKinney. Okay? What is going to happen is exactly what's happening. Chaos. FEMA is right now at best like it was during Katrina, something you want to avoid at all possible costs. Okay? But FEMA is not something that should be real high on your priority list. I come from a military and a CIA family, right? You know that I've had a great many friends over the years, not only from people who left CIA, but U.S. Army Special Forces, and recently some incredible guys from Navy SEALs, okay? Let me be very clear on this. As of the last time I checked, and this is probably not correct, it's probably less than that, there were only 13 combat brigades in the continental United States. That is not enough military personnel to even protect critical infrastructure. I have read
Did everyone hear that?
I have read the Patriot Act and the Homeland Security Act from the Homeland Security Act from cover to cover. The absolute priority under continuity of government or under these acts is the protection of critical infrastructure. Bridges, radio stations, microwave towers, banks, police stations, fire departments, airports, ports. There ain't enough troops for that. During the Great Depression, when unemployment was 35–40%, we're between 25 and 30 now if you go to shadow stats. When unemployment was even bigger and people were starving, what business said, what infinite growth said, What the people who control the reins of infinite growth said was, why should we help these people? They're a migrant workforce. Don't give them any money. If there's a dust bowl in Oklahoma, they'll fight, they'll crawl, they'll starve, they'll steal their way to get to California to pick fruit for slave wages. It costs us nothing. And if some of them die, it's just weeding out the gene pool. That's the attitude that they have. So I would put that way down on your list. Now, if there is major civil unrest, I mean, how many people were here for Rodney King? Okay. You know, I've seen a couple of good riots. That was a good one. If you were here, you will understand that if there's major civil unrest, the one thing that you do is just get out of the way. Disengage by any means possible. And to the extent that you can disengage from the economic system and everything else, you're that much freer to take care of yourself and your family.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Hello. Basically, I have a strong interest in human behavior, and I would like you to give me your opinion on the following ideas that I have. Basically, humans, the whole nature versus nurture argument. How much does nature influence our behavior versus nurture, right? And I would like you to give me your opinion about. Is there a part of our, like a hardwire or something innate in our behavior, in our brain, that just predisposes us to aggressive behavior or hierarchical behavior? I do realize that that whole predisposition versus predetermination scenario, our environment has a lot to do with the way we behave. And I understand that there's been many cultures in the past where, or societies where they've been very close to being nonviolent or less violent than others. But what do you have to say about genes, genetic predisposition for aggressive behavior?
I don't think it's genes or genetic. I think it's a part of the consciousness of the species of Homo sapien. We have lived in an infinite growth paradigm basically since we started cultivating agriculture, 5,000 years BC, whenever it was. What oil did and natural gas did was it allowed us to exploit that to the maximum possible extreme. That's why there's 5.5 billion of us here who weren't here before we discovered oil. And they won't be here after the oil's gone. So I don't think it's a genetic issue. But when you were asking the question, I went back to the brilliant research that Peter Joseph did in Moving Forward. The research showed very clearly that in every human civilization or society, and I believe it's temporal, I believe it goes back through history as well as it is universal across the world right now. The greater the income disparity, there's almost a perfect correlation with the level of violence in society. It was brilliant research. We're dealing with, there's an old, I tell this story, it's the parable of the scorpion and the turtle, okay? There's a turtle sunning itself on the banks of the Rio Grande down in Texas, right? He's just having a nice day hanging out by the river, and up walks this scorpion and says, hey man, can you give me a ride across the river? The scorpion looks at him and says, you're crazy, you're a scorpion, you're gonna sting me, I'm gonna die. The scorpion says, no man, I can't swim. So if you take me out in the river and I sting you, then we're both gonna die. Turtle thinks about it. Okay, hop on. Scorpion hops on, they get out to the middle of the river, deepest part. Sure shit, scorpion stings him right in the neck. The turtle looks up and goes, no, we're both going to die. Why did you do that? And the scorpion said, I couldn't help it. I'm a scorpion. The people running the infinite growth monetary paradigm are dinosaurs faced with the asteroid. They cannot behave any other way than the way dinosaurs behaved. They are not adaptive. They are not in control. They are making things worse, and they will kill us all as they try to convince us they're trying to help. So academically or intellectually, I don't care about genes or anything else. See, I'm a very practical guy. I was a cop. I've seen too many emergencies, life and death situations, where you make the critical decisions now. And all I see is now, and this is why I'm so happy these days, is I see a whole world that's waking up all at once. CollapseNet has members in 60 countries now. We're growing about 15% a month. That's because we're kind of offering something that's useful. Okay, but all I focus on and all I take joy in is the speed at which this awakening is taking place. Sometimes understanding is the booby prize. You understand what I'm saying with that? We don't need to figure out whether it's genes or anything else. We just need to find the people who get it and start taking care of each other.
100th monkey.
100th monkey, baby.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I was wondering if you could continue talking a little bit about, you were talking about how tribal organization, working in small groups locally is sort of the way to move forward. I was wondering if you're familiar with, I unfortunately can't remember the lady's name, but she wrote a book, something to the effect like Tragedy Will Bring Us Together. She wrote it just before Haiti, and she had studied human catastrophes all over the planet, all through history, and found that actually in times of great calamity, people suddenly become all of those things that we talk about with spirituality. They become magnanimous and generous.
There was a great old movie with Jeff Bridges, I forget what it was, about an alien who came to Earth.
Right.
Starman. And it's at the end of this movie, and Jeff Bridges is looking at the female, lead opposite him, and he says, "You human beings are at your best when things are worst." But here's the wrinkle. We're looking now at a monumental international effort to help Japan. And somebody posted on Facebook that, "See, this is proof that we're all good, the world's rushing to Japan." Misses the point entirely. There's not enough oil or resources to rebuild Japan. We never rebuilt Haiti. We haven't fixed the Gulf. And when it comes time for us to show, to offer, and to be our best, it will only matter for those people who are in the room with us at that moment. The help can only come from those who will be close. There may not be energy, resources, or means to do that. That's why forming a local, close-knit family, tribe, clan, gang, whatever you want to call it, okay, is the most important thing. And I got to tell you, in this Tom Brown standard course that I went through up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, you get this broad spectrum. It's challenging physically, but the oldest person in the class was 73. But there were 4 active members of the United States military in that class, coming on their own time. There was this amazing spectrum of intellect and awareness and just love for this planet that we live on. But there was a gangbanger from East Los Angeles. And you know why he's there? Because when the shit goes down in his gang's territory, his gang's going to take care of his neighborhood.
Right. Yeah, right.
So flowers sprout from unusual places, So we just got to keep throwing out the fertilizer like I pee on my lawn all the time. So.
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
We crossed paths. Were you in Lisbon in 2004 for the Peak Oil Conference?
I wasn't. I sent my editor then, Jamie Hecht, to cover Lisbon. I went to 3 other asphalt conferences.
I had the honor of meeting Colin Campbell and interviewing him.
Yeah.
We're working on a documentary that never got finished, but that was
He's a wonderful man.
stuff. Yeah. So, listening back to something you had mentioned earlier, which I also hold as a vision, which is one way or another, a sustainable route is a resource-based economy. Could you elaborate on what that looks like for you? Because a lot of people hear the catchphrase now, and I'm interested from your perspective, what you're envisioning when you say those words to somebody.
The question for me is not as important as what I envision a resource-based economy to look like. It's how the hell do we get there? How do we make the change between this economic paradigm and that? Because you can't even begin to build a resource base. I mean, you have to understand that the way our ancestors lived for 40,000 years or so was a natural, unthinking, unorganized, with no textbook, resource-based economy. It just happened because of their complete connection to the planet and all life around them where they lived. That's how the native peoples lived. They didn't have a Bible. The earth was their Bible. Okay? So the question is, because this current economic paradigm will kill it. I wrote a story called Global Corp in 2004, 2005. It's one of the best essays. It's on the From the Wilderness website. But I envisioned this scene because what we see now happening is, of course, the 1% getting richer by the minute, looting everything with this debt that none of us can, will, or ever repay. And we see them accumulating all this power. And in Global Corp, I said, the way this is probably going to end is that all life around is going to continue to deteriorate, and there will be more mergers and acquisitions until there is finally the last corporation standing. And I called it Global Corp. And I said that at the minute it takes over and becomes the last corporation standing, the CFO, as the lights go out and the last person dies, will go, hooray, we did it. So how do you break? Now this hasn't been answered yet, and I talked to Peter about moving forward, because the end of the movie, we're all looking for that answer. But I know that the seed of it lies in something I read about the Great Depression, when somebody was writing, and it was done very well, I've got to paraphrase again. But he was looking around, and there was land, and there was corn, and there were cows, and there were milk. That no tractors were running, and the farmers had to pour out the milk. And we've had mass suicides of farmers in India and Africa, the way money works. And so the issue is, and the only way I think it can be achieved is with the 100th monkey chain of consciousness. That somebody says, okay, there's food over here, you have some cloth, I'm going to get some food, and taking money out of it completely. You know, but that's a shift in consciousness. Now, that's happening. There are moves in several states right now to introduce gold and silver as money. I heartily applaud that. It's not a magic bullet solution, but it's tangible. You can't print gold or silver. At least we got something we can start with that's honest. Okay? That's important. You know, barter economies are springing up. I strongly encourage barter economies. Even though we charge $100 a year at CollapseNet, you can get a barter membership by bringing us 20 good listings for our Lighthouse directory. We'll give you a membership. If you're involved in a Transition US initiative anywhere, we give you a 50% discount. So it's this, now this is the real grunt work of changing the economic paradigm, and it is like a blind man groping in the dark. But the issue is not what it's going to look like, but it's how do we get liberated so that we can find out what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's part of what today's about. It's a push in a global effort to do that. So.
Yep.
My question's not as deep, but I'm wondering, you being an ex-police officer and having the CIA background, how many of these kinds of guys are actually going to be, in your opinion, allies or maybe enemies?
Oh, okay. All right. Here's a simple answer. I'm in contact with many law enforcement people. Some are just going to drop out because they have no pay and they have no benefits and they're not going to, you know, and they're going to get laid off. But more than anything else, I think what I hear, and it really stands to reason, Los Angeles police officers live in Los Angeles. Culver City, you know, police officers are committed. They are bound to a piece of land and a locality. And as long as they can take care of their family, now I've talked to some cops who have had problems because, you know, the jurisdictions are so large, but they will maintain loyalty to keeping the safety of their home, which means that they will probably do whatever they can to protect local environments. Cops will not go marching to Dick Cheney-style orders to harass people under this. No.
What about the military?
Were you here when I said there isn't enough military? You're here. You know, and there is a lot of discontent and unhappiness in the United States military now. But how that will play, I don't know. I can tell you that globally the United States is under attack. Full court press like you can't believe. In Afghanistan, the Taliban is really crimping fuel supplies from Kandahar to the NATO troops in Afghanistan. Violence is increasing all over Iraq, and Iraq is about ready to explode. Iraq has the second largest oil reserves on the planet. We are, according to our dear president who will solve all problems, supposed to be pulling out of Iraq forever by the end of the year. It's not going to happen. It was never intended to happen, and the Mehdi army of Muqtada al-Sadr, which really fought the US and the British to a standstill in southern Iraq, he's a Shia, is ready to rise up because the food riots have been almost as bad in Iraq as in any other country. The mainstream hasn't told you. They just blew up a major pipeline from Kurdistan in northern Iraq to Turkey, which took 500,000 barrels a day out of global oil supply. So Iraq's about ready to explode. I have nothing but dread and concern for our military personnel overseas. I wish they were home. But the ones stationed overseas deployed may wind up being Rome's lost legions. You know, we got them there, but we couldn't get them back.
Hello. You said you're leaving LA. Do you think it's a good idea for anyone who lives here?
Do not all hit the 10 at the same time. Stay off the Interstate 5, that's the way I'm leaving. Okay? No. I'm leaving because for a year now I have been developing very, very strong relationships with a great number of people up in Sonoma and Sebastopol. There's a place prepared for me and I will be welcomed there. We will be welcomed there. CollapseNet will be welcomed there. And what I'm doing is I'm setting up a place too where the people who remain behind in LA, that if they need to get out of town like their ass is on fire, we have a place where we can put them up and take care of them and feed them. You take care of your tribe, you know. That's like, you know, I get a question sometimes from the entitlement generation. How dare you charge for what you do? And I say, I have 11 full-time employees who give their heart and soul more than full-time to this. They're devoted, they're dedicated, and they're my people, and they're going to eat. You know. Anyway, that was a little sidebar. We take care of our tribe. Don't rush. In a survival situation, and I have been in many, and I have been privileged to hang, train, associate with many people who have been there. You can almost guarantee that if you're doing something in a panic, you're making the wrong move. Okay? Right here in Los Angeles, I'm assuming you're a native, right?
No, I actually just moved here 6 months ago for school. I'm wondering if I should go back home.
Where from?
North Carolina.
North Carolina? Raleigh, Durham?
Wilmington.
Okay. Okay. A lot of special forces, a lot of green beanies living around there, and they're all well prepared. Usually what I say is you have the best immediate advantage where you are indigenous, where you know the streets, where you know the culture, where you know the people, where you know which way to go without thinking, where you know, hey, this store's over here, that house is over there, that field's over there. That's where you have the greatest strength. But you need to put some foresight and planning into moving. I don't know how much time we have, but at least now I got your attention and you can start to ask them. We got checklists in our Lighthouse directory, CollapseNet. We got checklists, we got resources that will help you go through a decision-making process to decide what's the right decision for you. Don't rush panic, though. That's probably not the right thing.
I have one more question. You said earlier that you think there's going to be civil unrest by the end of this year even?
Or 2 months at most.
Okay, but you also said that you don't think we'll see a resource-based economy in our lifetime. So what exactly, if things are about to hit the fan or whatever in a matter of years or whatever, or months, what is going to be going on for, like, say, my lifetime, like for 50, 60 years?
This is the transition, and God knows how it's going to play out. There's one scenario that's extremely plausible, that Saudi Arabia becomes unstable, somebody attacks Iran, and everybody starts firing nukes, in which case none of us have a damn thing to worry about because there ain't nothing we can do about it. We're all dead. Okay? And it's over really fast. And then it could last 30, 40, 60 years. It could have, we could see massive disease outbreaks, and wait till the disease hits Japan. Oh my God. Okay? You know, we could see all manner of things. My point is this, is that when this is over, when this collapse is done and the transition phase is done, entropy is the second law of thermodynamics, right? The most stable energy state in the universe is rubble. It is, okay? When all of this is over, there will not be Democrats, there will not be Republicans, there will not be Baptists, there will not be Buddhists, there will not be brown, black, there will only be survivors. And the reason why I'm here is because I want the wisdom of Zeitgeist and Venus Project to survive.
Thank you.
One more question.
All right, let's get to the last one.
In your opinion, what countries, if any, have the potential to do all right through collapse?
You can't look at things as countries anymore, because most countries are artificial constructs. The United States of America is doomed. They cannot possibly hold together. That's a whole separate talk. We were bound together with the energy invested in railroads, with the energy invested in the interstate highway system, with the energy invested in 250 million internal combustion powered vehicles. We have been bound together. Entropy works the other way. Things break down, not up. So what you will see is geography will trump everything. So there's no one particular nation anywhere. And even if I said that, it would probably be more of a curse than a blessing for that nation. I look to answer by finding the regions, the communities that are already into organic farming, living sustainably off the land, not consuming, and who have tight cohesion within that community. Those will be your nations as you go through the transition. Thank you very much.
Two more questions real quick.
Two more.
I'll try to make it quick.
I'm going to charge you in a minute. I want some money.
My name's Andrew. I hear your message to prepare yourselves to grow food, to get ready, to make friends. Currently, I'm in the application process for the LAPD. I served 4 years in the Marine Corps, and my mentality is very much, how am I going to protect myself, my household, my wife? We live in an apartment. My question to you, Mike, what can I do, or what have you done to face the other side of this coin, that when civil unrest does hit, there might be some who don't want to be in my community? How many guns do I need to buy, or how much ammunition do I need to store to make sure that what I have provided for myself remains mine?
I wouldn't worry about it. What was your MOS in the Corps?
I was a Marine 0351 infantry assaultman.
You were a trigger puller.
That's right, sir.
God damn, bless you, sit down. One of the instructors at, one of the best instructors at Tom Brown's standard course, a guy named Bill, who was a straight leg 03. That means a captain in Marine infantry. And he has totally adopted the spiritual conscious way of life that is connected with Mother Earth. You know, and I know, that if you don't have a squad, you're screwed, because you can't carry enough, you can't do enough, you can't man all the weapons enough. You understand as well as I do, you know, because I've shot about everything there is, almost. I still want to shoot a minigun, but never mind. That one weapon doesn't satisfy all, and you cannot possibly carry all the ammunition yourself. So the idea is to, now if you were CollapseNet, I would suggest that you go locate on CollapseNet, go find the CollapseNet members who live close to you and find out who knows anything about what in the Army, it's 11 Bravo, you know, basic infantry, you know, fire and maneuver, enfilade, defilade, you know, all that stuff, that basic fire, the stuff that you need to know to survive. And the best gunfight, as we all know, is one that's avoided. I've been shot, it's not fun. Trust me, it's not, you don't look forward to it, it's not good. So, you know, but again, John Wayne ain't going to survive this. And I salute your service, and I recognize your service. I wasn't demeaning that in any way. But you got to find a squad, man. You know, we all got to do that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I was former military, Air Force, and I completely understand about that, the whole unit concept, and you can't function alone. no matter how much technology you have. My question was in regards to Michigan. I believe they passed this law. Basically, the governor signed it saying that a corporation can take over emergency services and pretty much the government. Your opinion on that?
Well, the government has to sign off on it.
Right, but it'll be the governor's signature that
It'll be the governor doing a bankruptcy liquidation sale of government services to the highest bidder, who will absolutely destroy those services because they have to make the most profit. But privatization's been on the table for a long time. As you see, this is interesting the way it works, because just do a hypothetical. California is releasing a lot of prisoners right now. They aren't talking about it. But there's obviously some prisoners that can't and shouldn't be released. But if the state of California goes bankrupt, privatization will be the way out. Corrections Corporation of America or Wackenhut comes up and says, we'll take over San Quentin for you, we'll do it for less money, you give us this up front, and then you know what's going to happen to the living condition of those inmates. That's not going to be human. So, and that's why if you have student loans, don't default on them yet. I'm serious. You know the student loans cannot be discharged in a bankruptcy. Try to rent a house, try to get a job, try to buy a car. If you've got defaulted student loans on your credit report a year from now, and you will find that you look like a very dark Negro person walking in Alabama free in 1850. There will come a time when you will default on those, but don't do it now. So I don't know, did that answer your question?
Thank you, Michael, for your time.
Again, we're going to take